This is the Cubs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Locked On Cubs Postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel as the Cubs win 5-4 over the White Sox and get the series win. They win the Crosstown Classic 5-1 this year. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money using code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's up to everybody listening here live on YouTube and in the chat, plus wherever you're listening to your podcast, Apple, Spotify. Thank you for checking out us all as always. All right, lots to talk about in this game. We'll get to our Locked On player of the game. We'll talk about Ben Brown's performance. Obviously, gets a little shaky there for the Cubs in the end, but they find a way to get the W. A lot of strikeouts from some of your most important players in this game. So production was kind of here and there, and then we'll talk about the upcoming series versus the Milwaukee Brewers. The biggest series of the season so far starts tomorrow. But we'll start today's show off with our Locked On player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
It's not even a question in this one. It's Nico Hoerner. Nico Hoerner, what a day at the plate, in the field, on the base pass. Nico Hoerner just kind of does it all today for the Cubs. Has the RBI single that makes it 3-1. He has one of the most intelligent baseball plays we've seen in a while. That you don't really see this happen very often, but little infield fly pop out, lets it drop, and the White Sox runner takes off for third base. A situation with Ben Brown was pretty good in this game, facing real damage here, a real chance for things to unravel, and Nico just pulls off a heck of a play, showing off that Stanford education. So great play there from Nico. Great, great, a multi-hit game. Had the 14 pitch at bat at one point in the game, kind of doing it all. But then he is part of the ultimate difference maker of this game. Gets caught in this pickle, but he extends it long enough for Ian Happ to turn the corner and head home. The White Sox have to start throwing home and get Ian Happ in a pickle. And Ian Happ, in the day that A.J. Pierzynski throws out the first pitch for the White Sox, Ian Happ does his part in honoring this rivalry and remembers Michael Barrett as he runs over the White Sox third baseman. He is called for obstruction, and Ian Happ is sent home. And that play ends up being the most important play of the game because Andrew Benintendi came up, hit that 3-run bomb to make it 5-4, and it could have been 4-4. Like, if Nico doesn't extend that pickle there to allow then chaos to absolutely unfold for the White Sox, the Cubs might not have won this game today. So everything he did, great at bats, a super intelligent play on the field, a super intelligent play on the base pass. Nico Hoerner, A+ game for him today for the Cubs. Plus, we can get your questions and comments here in the chat. Jeremy says, he said, well, it's not a question, I guess, but Ben was great. Yeah, Ben Brown was great in this game. Look, he has been obviously not good is the kindest way to put it towards Ben Brown. He's had a couple starts here and there that have been good, but for the most part, it's been a struggle this year. I think all Cubs fans kind of felt the way I felt going into this game was you've done 3 bullpen games. They've all been a disaster. Ben Brown's only been part of one of those. There was that last one. But instead, he just gets to start in this game. And the White Sox really don't have many opportunities to score. The fastball was looking good. The curveball was looking good. Really relying on those 2 pitches, and the changeup was mixed in a little bit, but really just using his 2 main pitches in this one. You needed that start from Ben Brown. Look, the Brewers took it in the bottom of the 9th versus the Marlins. They nearly got swept by that team. But you're heading into Monday in this series versus Milwaukee in a tie. You're ahead of them because of your season record head-to-head, but you're tied at this point. And you have the 2 best records in the National League as well. So this series is huge. And Ben Brown needed to pitch well in this game for a multitude of reasons. You need to limit your bullpen exposure in this game, which for the most part they did. Obviously, Brazier giving up that home run forced Craig Counsell to put Daniel Palencia in, which kind of stinks. You like to maybe just have him there for every game, and you'll still have him for 2 out of 3 versus Milwaukee if you need him. But and hopefully you need him for at least 2 of them, or you blow him out. You don't need him all, but hopefully it's not the Cubs losing these games. But you're hoping to limit your bullpen exposure. Ben Brown was able to do that, And it was just a positive start. Like a guy that is probably headed right back down to the minors. My guess is we won't see, knock on wood here, more injury for the Cubs this year. I think there's a good chance this was the last Ben Brown start you saw in 2025 as a member of the Cubs. The Cubs are going to, in my opinion, and hope, I guess, it's more hope than opinion, I guess, trade for at least one starting pitcher. Javier Assad is on his way back. So I don't think Ben Brown, unless he squeezes in one more start before the deadline, I think this might be Ben Brown's last start. And he goes out on a positive. Now for Ben Brown, it's about getting back down to the minors, as long as he's still a Cub at least, and figuring out that third pitch. So hopefully next year he can contribute to this rotation in a much more impactful and consistent manner. But for today, he did a great job. And he helped the Cubs get the win over the White Sox. So Nico Hoerner, very positive day. Ben Brown, very positive day. And then Matt Shaw just continues to make, to be on fire. I mean, he is consistently just having really good at-bats and a lot of clutch hitting, something that is missing from the Cubs since coming out of the All-Star break. They don't have a lot of guys, coming through in the clutch very often. It's been a little bit of a grind. All of these wins, these wins that they've gotten, I think that what puts them at 5-3 or 5-4. I think 5-4 coming out of the break, I believe it is. So it's been a roller coaster. It hasn't been easy. But Matt Shaw he's hitting right around 500 since coming out of the break. And he had another clutch RBI hit in this one today. So he just continues to do his job. And, the other thing I forgot about Nico too, was after the RBI single that brought in Carson Kelly, going from first to home. And again, the second half of the season, we've seen Quentin Berry be way more aggressive, sending guys, and it pays off because Nico, if it's a good throw from left field, Nico's out by a mile, but it's not. And Nico slides in, head first, and he's safe to, get that Cubs the extra run there in that inning. So again, Nico just doing a little bit of everything, but Matt Shaw continues to be the biggest and best bright spot for the Chicago Cubs coming out of the All-Star break. Kind of the opposite of what we saw from some of the other guys in the game today. Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch, Dansby Swanson, I think it was 10 strikeouts combined. I did think one thing that was interesting that I was thinking, and then it was said on the broadcast. I thought it as soon as JD said it, and then he caught himself saying it, was the Cubs keep facing these pitchers who are struggling to throw strikeouts at a high percentage. They're well below the major league average, yet in these games, coming out of the break, we are seeing the Cubs strike out a lot. Like that is something that has been very prevalent in the Cubs lineup so far. And it's a mixed bag. It's, Michael Busch, obviously a day. It's him and Seiya Suzuki both days they would want back. Seiya was, the body language is kind of weird. Obviously very frustrated, but he just looked defeated on all those called third strikes. I guess he just really wasn't viewing the zone in the way that the umpire was and didn't, adjust to it. But so a lot of strikeouts in this game for the most part. That's really the big negative of this one. Because even like Brazier, they're not going to beat up on Brazier for giving up a home run. Like, yes, it made this game more stressful for fans, but this is a guy who's had a below 1 ERA, coming into this game, and that's the first home run he's given up this entire season. So it's not like I think we should be sitting here and be upset with his performance. He threw a bad pitch and was asked to do a lot. You could question Craig Counsell if you want to. I'm not. I won't. I think that bullpen pitchers can be asked to go more than just 3 outs. We saw Daniel Palencia get his first 4-out save of the season today. So Brazier, just one bad pitch really for him today. Besides that, he was awesome in his appearance. But one thing really just it gets away from there. Those 2 hits and then the big home run from Benintendi. But really the home run was the only one that was of consequence because the other ones were, they weren't ropes or anything like that. So, yeah, it was stressful. I saw the chat going crazy here before the game ended. Very upset and nervous that the Cubs were going to lose, but they did not. They won 5-4 and take down the Chicago White Sox. All right, we'll take our break here. When we get back, we'll start to talk about the Milwaukee series, other thoughts from this weekend. If you have them, questions, you are welcome to drop them in the comments. We will address trade questions. I know that, there's so many right now. We'll talk about the deadline here. We'll talk about every show until it gets here on Thursday. So all coming up next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. If you ever wish managing your money felt easier, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. My wife and I have been using this. Obviously, we share our finances, and just having all of it, being able to track it through Monarch Money, still just makes it a little bit easier for us. But when we're talking about paying things down or saving up money for a big trip, all of that we can do on Monarch Money. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Today's episode is also brought to you by Gameday Hue. Look, Gameday Hue is a really cool product that is going out there right now. I've got some stuff on the way at the moment. Gameday Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just a smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or anywhere in between. So if you think about it, you can't wear a big hat with the logo on it, kind of like the one I'm wearing right now. You can't wear that to certain events. You got to wear something a little more clean, but you can still wear a hat. Gameday Hue would be a great way to do that and to represent your team. Plus, they also have their split shade golf gloves, so you can use those on the course and represent your squad as well. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. That code even stacks on bundle deals, so now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com. Code MLB15. All right, questions and comments here in the chat. Look, I know people are worried about the Brewers. They should be. They're playing good baseball. I know they lost 2 out of 3. That is where it is important, I think, to think a little bit about where the Cubs are in this one. I think both teams not playing at their best going into this series, and this series is massive. Like, obviously, there's another one later in the season coming up in August where you've got a 5-game series. You got a doubleheader mixed in there, I believe it is, as well. So you got a big series coming up now with the Brewers, though, and the winner of this series is going to take, honestly, I would say, a commanding lead of the division, even though it's only potentially a 1 or 2-game lead. It does feel like this is going to be, it has that momentum swing for the season, whether the Cubs win or the Cubs lose. Like, this one feels just a little bit different with the way the Brewers have been playing, the way the Cubs have been playing, that also being centered around the trade deadline. The next 4 days are going to be stressful. It's going to be very important games, and then a big deadline that looms around. And then plus you have things like Eric asks here in the chat, asking if I think Javier Assad can be counted on this late in the season. I think that's a really interesting question. I'm going to guess the answer is yes. I don't know what the capacity of that role will be, though. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cubs make moves at the deadline. Let's say they do acquire 2 starting pitchers. Where would Javier Assad fit in the rotation? He wouldn't. So, maybe we see him in a bullpen role or something, something different this year. Greg Counsell on this team, like, that's an arm you want as part of your staff. So that, to me, is where I think he can make an impact. We'll see how these rehab outings go for him in Iowa, and hopefully he's back soon. Him and Miguel Amaya both coming back to this team in, hopefully the next 2-3 weeks. It feels like, they said mid-August that, that both those guys could be back. Obviously, it feels like it's a little bit easier for a hitter to come back, because sometimes you have to stretch out a little bit more. But yeah, I think Javier Assad can definitely make an impact for sure on this one. Let's see. Devane says, I think I said that right. Sorry if I didn't. Shaw started to heat up, but our starting pitching, our middle relief pitching has been bad lately. I wouldn't trade our best prospects unless it's for a really good pitcher. The starting pitching, I'll push back a little bit on that, has been really good in the month of July so far. Obviously, Shota was not that, but in that game. But for the most part, the starting pitching has actually been pretty good. And that's important, too, for this upcoming series. You've got, Matthew Boyd, the best pitcher on your team right now, a guy who is kind of pushing his season into Cy Young conversation, or at least vote-worthy territory. You've got Colin Ray, who was not great in his last start, but had been really good the 3 or 4 before that. And then you've got Shota, who just needs to, whatever was going on, didn't have his best stuff. Talked about it in the post game a little bit. Obviously, him and his translator about, just not feeling like he had his best stuff. The velocity was down. The location was terrible. That's obviously the one that I think, him and Colin Ray kind of feels like it can go either way. But you got the young kid, Mizorowski or whatever it is, for the Brewers pitching in his first game. He's an interesting one, though, because they took him out early of his last game. Like, they're kind of monitoring what he's doing right now. So you have your best 3 guys currently on your roster in your rotation. You know what? I think I got to put Cade Horton in front of Colin right now. He's pitched well enough to deserve that. So 2 of your 3 best starters on your team right now are going against the Brewers. So, yeah, you need those guys. The middle relief part of it, yeah, I think the Cubs should trade for some bullpen help. I think there are some guys that have some regression to the mean, screaming at the Cubs for an office a little bit. Now, they've been pretty good still for the most part. Obviously, this month has not been that. They have the second or third worst ERA in all of baseball in the month of July. So I guess that is a full regression to the mean for a lot of them. So yeah, I think adding to the bullpen, it's the one thing that never really gets talked about when we do these shows. I feel like I get asked a lot of questions about starters and third baseman and things like that. But yeah, I think bullpen is someone that it's something I would really like to see them do. Ryan says, why can't the media actually put Jed on the spot? Well, I've never talked to Jed Hoyer before, so I've never had the opportunity to do so far. I feel like David Kaplan for sure, though, is like the only person Jed really talks to and is honest with on 1000. And I feel like he's pretty honest with them. But yeah, look, if things don't go in the way, if you don't see like a big splash at the deadline, Jed Hoyer is going to be maybe the most disliked person in Chicago sports for a little bit, because Cubs fans have high aspirations, I think, as we should this year. And with this team, and I think we're all kind of expecting Jed Hoyer to add to that for sure, because yeah, you got to add to this team as soon as possible. So overall, this series is, it's always good to beat the White Sox. Like, I hate to be super, I just love it. Like, I love seeing them beat the White Sox. It's one of those where, to me, you want to see this team beat them all the time. Obviously, they had, an 8-game win streak going into Friday's game. They lose that one, but you win 2 out of 3. They only beat you once this season. I do think the White Sox have an interesting future. So if you have, White Sox fans in your family, I'm sorry. But also, you have to think that, they're going to be competitive with the Cubs for sure going forward. But glad they got this one for sure. Goro says, why are we asking this question, Goro? Yes, the White Sox in a new stadium for sure. I don't care though, honestly. All I care about happens on the north side for sure. All right, so that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Cubs postcast here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. I have family obligations tomorrow night, so Matt and Sam are going to be going live as soon as the game over. So basically, they'll be doing the post-game show, but doing their normal show as soon as Game 1 of the Cubs and Brewers season wraps up. I will be back with you guys on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then deadline day will be here, and it will be time to see what the Cubs did or did not do at the trade deadline before the season really gets going, and they take on the Orioles starting on Friday. So thank you for watching. Remember, hit that subscribe button to the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel for my show, Matt and Sam, all of us here on the channel, and then as well, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, check us out there. So thanks for watching. Talk to you guys from me on Tuesday. Enjoy tomorrow's game. Peace.